Good day, dear students. You are welcome to our today's lecture, which is called Type of Equivalence, Equivalent Lacking Lexical and Grammatical Units. Please write down the plan of our lecture. There are 3 points. The notion of a context and its forms, the notion of an occasional equivalent, equivalent lacking lexical and grammatical units. A variety of equivalents may also result from a more detailed description of the same objects in target language. The English word attitude is translated as отношения, қарым-қатынас, политика, саясат, depending on the variant target language prefers in a particular situation. Here, the choice between equivalents is determined by target language factors. Even if a source language unit has a regular equivalent in target language, this equivalent cannot be used in target text whenever it is found in source text. An equivalent is but a potential substitute, for the translator's choice is to a large extent dependent on the context in which the source language unit is placed in source text. There are 2 types of context, linguistic and situational. The linguistic context is made up by the other source language units in source language. The situational context includes the temporal, spatial, and other circumstances under which source text was produced, as well as all facts which the receptor is expected to know so that he could adequately interpret the message. The context of a word is a total combination of words, grammar forms, and constructions within which a given word is used. For example, I don't like your attitude to work. There is no sign of any change in the attitudes of the 2 sides. He stood there in a threatening attitude. The context of a word is a total combination of words, grammatical forms, and constructions within which a given word is used. Context is divided into 2 types, linguistic and situational. Also, context can be macro context and micro context. Macro context is the language environment of a given unit, which is more than a sentence. And micro context is the context of word combinations and sentences. Exact limits of macro context cannot be defined. It may be the context of a group of sentences, a passage, a chapter, and the whole novel. In its turn, the micro context can be lexical and syntactic. The syntactic context is that syntactic construction in which a word or a word combination is used. The syntactic context is a total combination of lexical units of word combinations where the word is used. For example, if someone is referred to in the source language as abolitionist, the choice of a substitute will depend on the period described. In different historic periods, abolitionists were people who sought the abolition of slavery, prohibition laws, or death penalty. Microcontext is divided into syntactic and lexical. For example, I don't like your attitude. There is no sign of any change in the attitudes of the 2 sides. And he occasional equivalent. An exceptional translation of a source language unit which suits a particular context can be described as an occasional equivalent or a contextual substitute. For example, he has a friendly attitude towards all. I graduated from New Haven in 1915. Equivalent lacking units. Source language units that do not have regular events in the target language are called equivalent lacking units. Ways of rendering source language equivalent lacking lexical units into target language. First, using loan words imitating the target language, the form of the source language word or word combination. Second, using approximate substitutes, that is, target language words with similar meaning which is extended to convey additional information. Third, using all kinds of lexical semantic transformations, modifying the meaning of source language word. Fourth, using an explanation to convey the meaning of the source language unit. Ways of rendering source language equivalent lacking grammatical units into target language. First, zero translation. For example, by that time he had already left England. Approximate translations. I saw him enter the room. No smaller number of source language units have no regular equivalents in target language. Equivalent lacking words are often found among source language names of specific national phenomena. Some grammar forms and categories may also be equivalent lacking. The absence of regular equivalents does not imply that the meaning of an equivalent lacking source language unit cannot be rendered in translation. Coming across equivalent lacking lexical units, the translator resorts to the following ways of translation. Loan words imitating in the target language the form of the source language unit. Approximate substitutes, lexical semantic transformations, modifying the meaning of the source language word, and explanation to convey the meaning of the source language unit. Also, transformational translation is the way of rendering source language equivalent lacking grammatical units into the target language. Occasional substitutes for grammatical lacking equivalent units can be classified under three main headings. Zero translation, when the meaning of the grammatical unit is not rendered, and in the translation in case it is practically identical to the meaning of some other unit and can be safely left out. For example, by that time he had already left Britain. The idea of priority expressed by the past perfect tense need not be separately reproduced in target text, as it is made obvious by the presence of by that time and already. Second, approximate translations, when the translator makes use of target language from partially equivalent to the equivalent lacking source language unit. For example, I saw him enter the room. The Kazakh language doesn't have complex object of this type, but the meaning of the object clause is a sufficient substitute. The third, transformational translation, when the translator resorts to one of grammatical transformations. For example, your presence at the meeting is not obligatory, nor is it desirable. Now, dear students, you are given control questions. So be ready with them during your seminar lessons. So first, speak on the notion of a context and its forms. Second, speak on the notion of an occasional equivalent. And the third, describe equivalent lacking lexical and grammatical units. Next, you are given references in supplementary literature which will be necessary for you during your preparation for your seminar lessons. Thank you for your attention.